The provincial government says yes, you are safe in the elevators of the province. The reassurance from Confederation Building came today following a report yesterday from Memorial University indicating its elevators were all operating with expired safety inspection stickers. More now from Kevin Simmons.
Have you checked the inspection certificate on your elevator lately? Well, it might be one of the 16% in this province which are not yet inspected and have expired. Martin Jones is the news director at Mon Radio. He received an anonymous call from a student concerned by the odd sounds and poor condition of a campus elevator. The elevator certificate had expired.
On campus. And we found out that the buildings with the elevators here on campus followed the exact same rule. They'd all expired as of April of 1994, 6 months ago.
A check of a few elevators on campus today showed that their certificates had indeed expired and that they were due for inspection back in April of this year. We found another set of elevators at the Confederation Building Annex to be in a similar state. Their certificates expired in September. For those students on campus at Memorial who are concerned about the safety of the elevators, the Department of Employment and Labor Relations, who carry out the inspections, released a statement this afternoon. They say the department is in the process of changing its schedule for inspections and that the operational safety of the elevators on campus are not in question. They also say they are confident the elevators are being serviced by competent elevator companies. For the NTV Evening News, I'm Kevin Simmons.
The president of the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency says this province is very well positioned to take advantage of new economic trends. Mary Guzella is in St. John's today to address local business people. She says small business is the key to economic development. She also says that while the federal government is sharpening its axe, looking to cut expenditures, ACOA is hoping its funding will escape the blade. At a luncheon of the St. John's Board of Trade today, the president of ACOA gave small business operators a shot in the arm. Mary Guzella said small businesses, those that employ no more than 5 people, are responsible for most of the new jobs in the country. She called on business people to find ways of working together, sharing information and technology. For this province, the move away from resource-based activity may be a difficult transition, but Mary Guzella says Newfoundland is making some positive moves.
I think, for instance, of companies that have enormous potential here in this province, like Ultimate East. We worked very closely with Ultimate East in its early years, and now it's a company that is going to be world-class, quite clearly. This is the kind of role ACOA has been playing in a developmental sense.
ACOA is responsible for the creation of 42,000 jobs in Atlantic Canada. ACOA's programs are now under review. The federal government is now in the process of deciding how to cut government expenditures. And as for ACOA's funding, well, it's too early to predict what will happen.
Are you worried that ACOA funding may get cut after the next or during the next federal budget?
Well, of course, budget decisions are made by the Minister of Finance, and so one can't prejudge them. But I think that ACOA has an excellent track record, and we've been able to document that track record.
While the topic of sexual abuse is not new to this province, the tragedy of Mount Cashel made it front-page news for months. While we believed at the time it was the worst Newfoundland could ever hear of sexual abuse, there remained untold 100 stories from across the province. 6 years ago, after the death of one of his students, Newfoundland teacher and author Tom Moores stumbled accidentally onto the painful stories of 4 girls whose lives would be forever marked by the actions of their foster parents. His research into the death of his student led Moores to write Angels Crying. It is the focus of tonight's Center Stage with Toni-Marie Wiseman.
In June, this little girl was sitting in my classroom, and when I came back to school in September, they were taking her body out of the harbor, and the answers as to what had happened didn't seem to be forthcoming.
Eventually, there was an inquiry into the 15-year-old's death. It had been concluded that she had taken her own life by leaping from a cliff and into the harbor. But Tom Moore still was not satisfied with its conclusions. He decided to begin his own investigation, an investigation that led him to the painful stories of 3 other girls who had been victims of sexual abuse in their foster homes.
And eventually it became the story of a number of girls, all involved in the same foster home, and it expanded as I saw that the problem was much more widespread than I had first started out. Eventually, it became the story of our reaction to this phenomenon, sexual assault.
The result of Tom Moore's research prompted him to write Angels Crying, the true story of the ordeals of those young girls and the response of social services and the rest of society on the disturbing issue. Surprisingly, Moore found that even those willing to help were apprehensive over discussing sexual assault.
We can start by talking about it, and that's what I try to do in my book. Some people found my book to be a bit too candid, and a lot of the language I was using, I was just quoting what the girls themselves said in their testimony. And there was a certain amount of pressure upon me to prune it a little, take out some of the offensive words. But then I realized that I was becoming part of the problem. I was becoming part of the secrecy. I was becoming part of the censorship of this, so that people wouldn't know the words they said. So I did, I left it in.
Tom Moore's Angels Crying is set to reach bookstore shelves later this week. For NTV News, I'm Toni-Marie Wiseman.